Okay, hello and welcome back. This is part three for the introduction of Sefer Yehoshua. And today we're going to address something fundamental. I'm going to do a screen share in order to enable that to happen properly. This is the Gemara Nedarim. Our Nedarim says, on Chav Beis and Beis, Amar Rav Ada Berebi Chanina El Malei Chatu Yisrael Lo Nitin Lahem Ela Chamishi Chum Sheitor V'Sefer Yehoshua Bilvad. Had the Jews not sinned, they would have only been given the five books. Sefer Bereshis, Shmos, Vayikra, Bamidbar, and Devarim, and just Sefer Yehoshua. Not the rest of Nach, nothing else. Why is Sefer Yehoshua so important? Sha'archel Shel Eretz Yisrael, who? Because it talks about the land of Israel and the distribution. My time, ki beroiv chochma rav kas. What's the reason for this? Because with a lot of wisdom, there's a lot of anger. What does all of this mean over here? What is so important about Sefer Yehoshua, and what does this mean? More wisdom, more Torah, more anger? What is this? Rashi over here writes, "Shekasubo erech chelek shel kol shevet v'shevet." This Sefer Yehoshua talks about the value of every single tribe. V'lo sagi b'lav hachi. It's not enough without this. It talks about over here every single tribe and the distribution of the land. Ulefi shebatu v'chatu, since they sinned, noitif lahem roiv chachma shar sefarim la'atrichin yoser. Because the Jews sinned, they were given additional books to learn, additional sefarim to burden them with. So we see that Sefer Yehoshua is very fundamental. The Ran, on Amud Aleph, one of the standard Mefarshim commentators on the Gemara Nedarim, comments on this line as well. And he says, She'ikoran shel shar sefarim, the main point of other books is Lo haya ella lehechiach Yisrael ala vedo shebiyadam, was only to rebuke the Jews for the sins that they did. Had they not have sinned, they wouldn't need the rebuke, which is mentioned in the other sefarim. Sefer Yehoshua explains the cities in Israel and the inheritances, the what was going to be bequeathed and the land distribution. So therefore, even if they didn't sin, you would have still needed Sefer Yehoshua. What does the pasuk mean when the Gemara quotes this pasuk? Ki berov chachma rav kas. A lot of wisdom, there will be a lot of anger. Berov divrei hanaviyim yeshimin l'roiv kas shechis Yisrael lakadosh baruch hu. When there's a lot of wisdom. Berov divrei chachma yisanaviyim. When there's a lot of wisdom from the prophets, this is a sign that there's going to be a lot of anger. Shehechisi Yisrael lakadosh baruch hu, because the Jews angered Hashem. Which means that all of these additional sefarim that we got in wisdom is a sign that we angered Hashem. That's why we got it. This is the Gemara. The obvious question is this really so, that we wouldn't need the other sefarim? The Ein Yaakov on this Gemara, the new version, quotes the Rif, Harif. The Rif asks a question and leaves it unanswered. It's an obvious question on this. Tamili Tuva. This is a big wonderment. Shahari Shir Hashirim, you have the book of Shir Hashirim, the Sefer Shir Hashirim, which talks about the divrei avos Hashem liyisrael, the love that Hashem has for us. The Matan Torah and with the Mishkan, ve'eno kishar sefarim shel neviim. This has nothing to do with the other books that talk about prophets. The other sefarim in Neviim, Shaba al Taychachasan shel Yisrael, which discusses the rebuke towards the Jews. And since that's so, how could you say that it was only five books that was given? And it would be Sefer Yehoshua, that would be the only thing that was given. V'hari gam Sefer Shir Hashirim ha'initim liYisrael. Afal pi shalei. You needed Shir Hashirim even if there had not been the sin of the Jewish people. If Shir Hashirim, who kodesh kadashim, Shir Hashirim is considered the holy of holies. Hein emes she'im leichatu kol Yisrael be'egel lo hayisarich mishkan. And the truth is that if the Jews wouldn't have sinned with the sin of the golden calf, you wouldn't have needed the Mishkan. Mishkan b'lachaper, ma'isa egel, that the Mishkan comes to atone for the egel, the golden calf. Aval mikol makom Shir Hashirim yesh ba kabbalas haTorah. Begam Sefer Tehilim, Yesh Bo Kamas. Yesh Bo Kama Tehilus v'Tishpachos Hayiroli Not Israel Alpha Pishlochat. You needed Sefer Tehilim. Tehilim you need. It talks about many praises that is fitting to be given to the Jews, even had they not sinned. So what does this mean? Ask the Rif. You wouldn't have needed any other Sefer except for Yehoshua. What do you mean? You need Shir Hashirim, you need Tehilim. You know what the Rif answers? Nothing. He leaves it unanswered, this question. This is the unanswered question of the Rif. We turn to the back of the Gemara, Maseches Nedarim in the Yalkut Mefarshim. They quote a Maharitz Chiyus. It's also actually quoted on the glass of the Ein Yaakov as well. Maharitz Chiyus elaborates on this question. Nichta b'sidoi. L'chayra kasha shari kama hilchasa guvro salamdu chazal medivredim. There are a lot of great halachos which are learned out from Navi. For example, the halachos of mourning, dine avalus lamdu chazal. The Gemara in Moed Katan on Daf Tesvav, Daf Chav Zayin, the whole end of the Masechet over there learns it out from Yechezkel. Harbedine tefila lamdu chazal medivre Eli. We learn many halachos of shemoneh from Eli the Kohen. Eli Kohen and the Navi. Chuvas Chana, and the answer that Chana responded. The Gemara in Brachos, Lamed Aleph, Lamed Beis. See the recordings over there, 31b on rabbiblan.com. Brachos for more details. Vidine Kriya v'nichum avelim landum and iyov. The halachos of Kriya, of tearing, for one of the 7 relatives that are close to us when they die: mother, father, son, daughter, brother, sister, or spouse. Nichum avelim, consoling mourners. Landum and iyov. We learned that out from Iyov. V'karami b'Yerushalmi, the Yerushalmi b'Perek in the 5th parak of Sota teaches us Rabbi Yochanan Amar Yov Yisrael Haya U'Moili Goyla Haya Lafum Kain Yalfina B'nei Hilchasav. We learn the halachas of also of mourning from Iyov. In Kain Afilu Onlu Chatu Yisrael V'lo Hutzur Chulu Techachas Mussar. If that's so, even if the Jews wouldn't have sinned, and we wouldn't have needed their rebuke, you still need these sefarim. Al Kapanim Dinim Chadashim Alamadim Min Aviyim Hayanachot. These halachas that we learn, these laws that we learn from Navi is nachos. It's urgent. We needed it. The Hodiyam, to inform them. What's the explanation? We needed many other sefarim other than Yehoshua. How can we explain this Chazal in the Gemara Nedarim over here? How can we explain this? The truth is that we're going to go like the Ramban over here. The Ramban says in Sefer Hamitzvos, the end of Shir Hashirim, the kol haneu halachos hanalmados medivri navim kulam halachos misinahim. All of these halachos that we learn from Navi are all halacha Moshe MeSinai. As the Gemara in Sanhedrin says in Chav Beis and Beis, and as well as Tainis Yud Zayin Beis, the maksha hagamara al dinim shalomdu mi Yechezkel darat Yechezkel managin mirayu. Because the Gemara over there asks, what do you mean? All of these halachos that we learned from Yechezkel about avalus, all of the laws of mourning before Yechezkel came. How do we know these halachas? It must be that Yechezkel wasn't the one that created these laws. There ain't Navi Rashi l'chadish. A Navi can't create something new. Shanei Hashas, the Gemara to that responds, Hilchos and You're right. The halachas we only knew. We always knew them from the time of when Moshe went to Mount Sinai, when he went to Har Sinai. Yechezkel came along and based it on pesukim. Torah Shabal Peh. Ad Kam Lashoner of the Ramban. So explains the Ramban. No, we knew the halachas before. We already knew it before. Excuse me. So therefore, since we knew it before, Yechezkel based it on what we knew before, but he discussed it a little bit more. Based it on that. So if that's so, explains the Maharitz Chiyus, Kol Elu Hadinim v'Halachos Shalamadim Medivri Neviim. All of these halachas, all of these laws that we learn out from Navi Ba'Korchach must be Farhem Mikubalim Be'uma Behalacha Misina. We already knew it before. That's why the Gemara rightfully says Kan de Omalei Chatu, that had the Jews not sinned v'lo hutzurchu the divrei Neviim, and if they didn't need the words of the Neviim, mishum tochachas mussar, because of the mussar, lo hayinit lehem rak hei chum sheitoro the Sefer Yeshua. That's why if the Jews wouldn't have sinned, we only would have just had Torah and Sefer Yeshua, and the rest of Nach we wouldn't have had, because v'im mishum hilchos hanamaldim the divrei Neviim ba'al korchach chadash zema. We need all the halachas in these other sefarim. In Nach, no. Those, they weren't really needed. Those other sefarim, they weren't really needed. Why? Because we already really knew them before. What about the Rif's question? What about Shir Hashirim and Tehilim? We didn't know those. Explains the Eitz Yosef and beautifully answers that up as well. And he says like this. Kavnu ba ki im lo. Hayu Yisrael chaytim. If the Jews wouldn't have sinned with the chet ego, with the sin of the golden calf, hayu bayim l'ma'ajrei garama ma'od, they would come to a very high, lofty level. Hayu yoidim haTorah ba'oifan na'alem ma'od, they would just know the Torah automatically. Lo hayasrichim l'ramizim, they wouldn't need the allusions, the hints of the prophets and their prophecies. V'skalusa mashia ba'osid. V'od meizes galum sistri source. They wouldn't need these prophecies predicting about what would happen in the future. And all of these secrets, they would just know it automatically from the Torah. They would have known this themselves. That's what the Gemara in Nedarim Ravacha teaches us. Wow, how much have we fallen from our high level after the sin of the golden calf? How bad is our sin that what? Look at how low we went. If we wouldn't have sinned, we wouldn't have needed the whole Navi, the whole Tehilim, Shir Hashirim. We wouldn't have needed any of that. Because these books, these sefarim of Tehilim, Shiur Hashirim, they're very important, but it's lower than prophecy. It's Ruach HaKodesh Lavad. It was through Ruach HaKodesh. So therefore, that's what the Gemara means, that it said, had we not sinned, we would have only gotten these three. That we would have only gotten the 5 books, and Sefer Yehoshua. We really wouldn't have needed anything else. Very important introductory to all of Sefer Tanakh. Next time we're going to talk about prophecy. Exactly how many prophets were there? Differences between the two. Do we have prophecy nowadays? Why not? Why is there less of it? That's what we're going to discuss next time in the final parts of this introduction. This is part 3.